So that's the crew tab. Let's move to the packs tab. We have two sources available for the packs information. The first one is the database, which means we can add passengers to our internal database and then use them if they fly with us a lot. To do that, we simply click on the little plus. So in this case, we have to add at least the name and the passport details. You've also got additional details that can be added for passengers, like favorite dishes, drinks, and so on. The passenger number is set up on here, so we can add and remove them this way, or we can add them from the bottom panel as well, which we'll see in a second. If there's more than one passport, we will be able to select it from here. So maybe let's add a passenger to see an example. Okay, so we have a test passenger. We can select the passport in here. The first one has been selected as default, so that's why it shows up here automatically. But we can select the second one if necessary. Also, if the date was expired, that text underneath here would show in red. You can see that once we add a passenger from the database, we are not able to add one from text. One excludes the other basically. So if we were to remove these passengers, we can now add passengers from text. This is basically a free typing space. We can enter here whatever we need to. We can enter a list of passengers if it's way too long to add through the database and we don't want to keep the names in our database anyway, so that's basically where we can enter a free text. It is also possible to import passengers from a different leg of the same trip if we have any, and that gives you the other leg of the same trip, or we can import from text. This option gives you a possibility to paste the packs list here. However, that list needs to be in a certain format. In here you have the available formats that will be accepted by the system. So basically that means you would have to create an Excel file or a text file with one of these particular formats. So the number, title, surname, first name, all separated by commas and a single space, and all the other details exactly like shown on here. You've also got the examples at the bottom of each format. So if you wish to use this importing tool, I would suggest creating your packs lists in one of these formats and then simply pasting them into here. The fuel tab gives us the information about the fuel prices we have uploaded in the system. The prices are uploaded by users in the tab handling fuel prices. Basically, the way it works is that your fuel provider provides you with a CSV file with all the fuel prices for all the different airports. You simply upload this file in the fuel prices section and then they will show up on here depending on what airport it is. Some of the providers have integrated with Leon and it's possible to order the fuel via them. Simply click order, enter the email, the request is by default, and you can add additional information if you want to as well, and simply click send. This option is available for few of our fuel providers. The rest simply displays the price. The green price is always the cheapest, and it is also possible to put that information on the trip sheet by ticking this checkbox. If there are additional notes in the price list files, they will be available on here. That usually includes taxes and additional payments. You can also add custom fuel providers with the use of this icon here. So simply select the card, enter the supplier, the price, and some notes if you wish to. You can also remove the supplier here. So that's the fuel tab. Let's move to Flight Watch and Journey Log. Flight Watch and Journey Log contain the actual flight times. In the Flight Watch, we can enter manually the times of the flight as it's happening, but it is also possible to have them entered in here by Eurocontrol if you're integrated. So if the integration is in place, the Eurocontrol will fill out those fields automatically, like takeoff and landing. Once we start filling the Flight Watch, for example, let's put the block off in. So and maybe the takeoff as well. Okay, so let's remove that. Okay. We have the block off and the takeoff, and we can see in the column flight watch and journey log we have some icon that gives us an information about the status of the flight watch. So in this case it's A for airborne, which means the aircraft has blocked off and taken off and it's now in the air. If we fill in the landing, we'll have information with the little plus that we can now add the journey log because the aircraft has landed. Okay, and we can also fill in the block on. And now we have the actual information of the flight times. Also, after entering each time either manually or by Eurocontrol, a movement message can be sent out manually, that's for manual sending, to a certain email address. Remember we set it in the tab Trip. So in here you've got the takeoff and landing emails, and once the email address is entered in here and we click send movement, the information about the takeoff time and the landing time will be sent to that email address. The movement messages can also be set up automatically for various scenarios, but that will be covered in a different video. You can of course add all the other information to the flight watch, but we have covered the basics. So now with the journey log, where we actually fill in the flight information after it has terminated, we can enter the flight from the flight watch, so copy data from the flight watch. That refers to block off, takeoff, landing and block on. We have those filled in here, so we can copy them over. We have the flight time and the block time calculated automatically. Things like the date and the airport are filled in automatically as well, and we also have to fill in the fuel, because as you can see, this is mandatory fields. This first section is mandatory for the journey log to be accepted by the system. So we simply fill in the fuel. Right now we're set to kilograms, but that can be changed to pounds as well, and we can also transfer that to different values as you have explained in the tooltip. But let's just put some basic fuel used, and the fuel remaining is calculated automatically. So now we can save the journey log because we have the mandatory fields filled in. Yes, the warning just says trying to add the journey log for a future flight, which obviously we're not supposed to be doing, but this is just for presentation purposes, so I would go ahead and save ignoring warnings. However, please bear in mind that once you add a journey log for a future flight, it cannot be removed. So you would either have to wait for the flight to happen and adjust the journey log, or simply remove the flight and add it again. So now the icon in the flight watch and journey log column has changed to a dot, and the dot gives us an information that the journey log is filled in. So all the other icons like the plus, the A, D, that's for flight watch. The colors dot, either if it's green or yellow, that's for journey log. The green one means we've got the mandatory fields filled in completely. Also, once the journey log is filled in, the flight number color changes to grey. That means the flight is done. We also have some optional fields, and there can be many of them. These are also set up by the admins in the settings. Right now we've got some basic ones in here. These are quite important. The landings, that would usually be one for a flight, but in case of simulator flight, like this one for example, we can have more than one landing, and that would be calculated in the 3 takeoffs and landings currency. So in this case that was a flight, a regular flight, we have 1 landing. The pilot flying is also crucial if we are calculating currency, because that's what the currency is based on. We can enter it in the format, 1 pilot does both takeoff and landing, and that would look like this, or we can simply click, add a slash and add the other pilot that was flying. In this case The first pilot has the takeoff currency calculated and the second pilot has the landing currency calculated. We can also add all the additional information we need. You can also upload different files, like for example the journey log scans in here. And Leon can also monitor the total aircraft hours and cycles if necessary. But that requires some airframe setup and all the journey logs to be filled in for all the past flights. At the bottom here you also have the information who was the last person to modify the journey log and what time that happened. The journey log can be also filled in via the mobile app. Another interesting option is this little aircraft icon here. What that does, it gives you the ability to kind of cancel the journey log. It doesn't remove it completely, but in case of a flight taking off but having to land immediately, for example, you can cancel the journey log, fill in the information, so like an explanation why the journey log is cancelled, and save. This way the flight is still going to be there, but you know it didn't fully take place. And the tab aircraft gives us the aircraft documents. Again, just like the endorsement, they're in two parts, required for dispatch and other. Okay, so that was the second panel. So the right panel where we enter the flight details or modify the flight details. And now we have the bottom panel on here. First of all, we can add a new flight. So that would be typically the place where we add new trips on ad hoc basis. So basically flight by flight. Simply select the aircraft from your fleet. The flight number can be filled in automatically or you can fill it in manually. Select the date, the time. It is selected to UTC, so make sure to enter it in UTC. The airport, you can enter either IATA, ICAO, the name of the airport, it doesn't really matter. Let's just put maybe Luton. And then we're flying to Stansted, very short flight. And the time of arrival is calculated automatically by the system as well. We've got the block time. We can add the crew straight away, so we double click and it takes us to the crew tab on here. So we have some crew, let's say, available, which we would have to reposition, but still we can plan them for now. We can also add the PAX number and another leg if we were to come back, for example. And we delete the leg by this little bin icon here. Once we're done, we can click save, attend to all the problems with the flight. But we're gonna save ignoring warnings anyway. Okay, so we've got the flight showing up on our list and we can straight away see there's something wrong with different items. Okay, here we have the airport discontinuity, in this case not enough crew. Again, airport discontinuity for the crew member and airport recency. We don't have the PAX details. So these are the things we can attend to. Now, if we want to edit the flight, we can either go down here to edit trip and change the details as we please, or we can do that on here as well. The difference is simply here we have some more details that we can enter. We can also edit log, that is the journey log, the ones that we've filled in on the side before, exactly the same information that we have available in the right panel. We can also add a new positioning, so that would be showing like with a little bus, like here. So that's positioning basically on land. So we can add the name of the positioning, for example, car. Select the date, the airport. For example, let's move this person back from where he just flew to. Okay, and we click save. And now we have the positioning on the list here as well. The positionings, just like the flights, have the checklist where you can add items and mark off what has been prepared for the positioning. The other available option is new reservation. However, in this view, in the table view, the reservations are not visible, so we won't bother about this now, but when we move to the calendar and the timeline, we'll be able to see new reservations. Okay, let's close maybe the panels. Now, another option that is available from all three views, table, calendar and the timeline, is when we right click and we have the list of documents available for the flight and some additional options as well. At the top here we've got trip or leg, so that means what the documents actually refer to. Is it a flight order for a full trip or just for the one leg? So whichever's blue, that one's activated. We can print the document, we can send the document, or if we integrate it with PPS, we can also upload the document to the PPS. Obviously, if we mark them and then print all, we'll have the list of documents in the order we have marked them. Each document has your logo on it and can be modified in the document manager with the help of an HTML specialist. At the top here we have the ops documents, and at the bottom here we have the sales documents, which are now not available simply because we do not have the quotation added to this flight. On the flight with a quotation, this section will be available. Okay, right click and now we have the charter agreement and the flight brief available as well. When we send the documents, we can have the sender's information filled in automatically, and we can add some content as well. Multiple documents can be obviously sent at the same time depending which ones we tick. If we were to send all of them, we'll have 3 of them attached to the sending panel. There are some default documents in the system, but as I said, they can be modified. If you have an IT department, they will be able to help you with it. You can find the document manager under the settings available for admins, where different kinds of actions can be done. You can remove them, you can add new ones, you can modify them, you can publish them, unpublish them, and so on and so forth. So that applies to the documents available on the flight here. Another useful tool is show trip history. So in this case we have an information who added the flight. If there were any changes made to the flight, that would be here as well. Maybe let's add some passengers, that's always the quickest way. Save ignoring warnings. A lot of warnings in Lyon, as you can see. And if we now go to trip history, we'll see that on this particular leg the number of passengers has been changed, who did it and when. Okay, show crew, show packs and show schedule are simple formats of the flight information, like here in the show schedule section. We can also send GCRs and SCRs if we wish to. We have the sending option right here. We can select what kind of schedule is being sent and which airport is it concerning, and same with the SCR. We have the same ability. There are preset formats. Obviously we just enter the email addresses and simply click send once we're done. Okay, the next one is notify crew, which is quite a useful tool. This is a simple Lyon dashboard. The crew of the flight are selected already, the documents are attached already, the subject is filled in as well, so you can enter a few words and an email from Lyon will be sent out to the crew members with the documents attached. You can also request the recipients to confirm that they've read the email and disable the possibility to reply to this message. And if you're done, simply send, and all those messages will be available in your messages dashboard just under the tools here, which you can, by the way, use as a simple Leon internal inbox. In here we can also send schedule to different external softwares that you can also be integrated with. The list of available softwares that you can integrate with is found in the section here under add-ons. It's got all the information needed in order to configure each integration. Okay, back to schedule. And the last option here at the bottom is simple link to the airport directory. Okay. Or you can enter this information by double click on the airport as well. Okay, so that is the table view. Remember, the date is here at the top. So basically set up the date from which the flights and activities should be displayed, or to go back to today, simply click today.